Très bien, on va passer un bon temps ici à KRVS sur un samedi matin là. C'est à peu près 8 heures dans la ville de Lafayette. Merci bien pour votre attention, comme toujours, chérie.
This is KRVS 88.7 FM Lafayette.
Say, hey, boogie woogie, we gonna boogie woogie down. And say, hey, little woman, come on and boogie on down. We go down to Louisiana, we gonna boogie on down. Extra!
Eh bien, mes amis, c'est le festival. This is Festival Week coming up. Festival is for everyone. It's free of charge. A lot of groups, a lot of people from out of town will be in. A lot of people from out of the country will be here as well. And certainly we'd like for you to show your hospitality.
When most of us think of Louisiana, we think of New Orleans and jazz. But here in the southwestern part of the state, there's a pocket of culture that predates the birth of jazz. And it's still alive and singing. Only most of the songs are in French.
On va retourner avec d'autres renseignements des activités qui va se passer pendant le festival. Festival international ici à Lafayette, chérie. Hein? Allons voir qu'est-ce qu'il y a sur le tournis là.
The region is known as Acadiana, and for a week each year, its hub city, Lafayette, welcomes artists from all over the globe to the Festival International de Louisiane. The festival not only celebrates local culture, it also brings an infusion of music and art back from the roots of Acadiana, from francophonic cultures around the world. Chaud.
On a vraiment l'impression que le temps tourne au ralenti, parce qu'on nous parle beaucoup des États-Unis hyper speed, où les gens sont très rapides. Et là, j'ai l'impression que ça tourne au ralenti. C'est très bien, je crois que c'est le soleil qui fait ça. Et on a l'impression de se retrouver dans les îles, et c'est bien.
Comment ça va, chérie?
Herbert Wiltz hosts a weekly radio program in French in which he promotes the local culture for this close-knit community. Festival president Tina Gerard visits his studio with news of upcoming events.
Lafayette is the capital of Acadiana. Acadiana is the French-speaking region. It's culturally rich. The whole area is. Hi, guys! And two, with the growing popularity of Cajun and Zydeco, Cajun and Creole around the country, they could almost put it on the license plates. Louisiana, festival state.
Mo, you want to try your microphone, please?
Yeah, well, hello, there it is. There it is. Sometimes I wonder about the life I've lived. Yeah, that sounds good to me. I'm getting plenty of sound.
His lyrics are familiar internationally, and some of the artists who have recorded his songs are Van Morrison, Bonnie Raitt, and The Who. So let's welcome back for the first time in 40 years, Mr. Mose Allison.
Thank you. I can't believe the things I see. I wonder about some things I've heard. Everybody's crying mercy when they don't know the meaning of the word.
After a gig, an out-of-towner like Mose Allison might want to sample some authentic Cajun food and check out the local music scene.
No, I never was much of a, musicians don't dance that much. They usually don't, at least I never danced that much.
Steve Riley is a rising star of Cajun music. He's also become this generation's keeper of a musical tradition that is over 200 years old.
Ever since I was a young kid, my grandfather, as soon as I could sing a tune or carry a tune, would teach me how to sing Cajun songs, because he was real involved in preserving, the culture, and he really loved Cajun music and his culture. He couldn't play an instrument, but he wanted his grandson to be able to do that.
Did your grandfather speak French?
Yes.
Did he teach you how to sing in French?
Yes. When I was young, I didn't understand what I was singing. Now I understand most of the French language, but I never practiced speaking it.
So you understand the words to this song?
Yeah, when I'm singing, I understand what I'm singing.
But do you
I made that a point, because why sing if you don't know what you're saying? You have to, for it to come from the heart, you need to know what you're saying.
What's new to Steve is old to Michael Doucet. His band, Beau Soleil, has popularized the music that was played by the old-timers when he was a kid.
Well, what Cajun music is now, it's the music of a people, of a nation who call themselves les Acadiens, who left France in the early 1600s and moved to what is now Nova Scotia, what they call Acadie. There they lived for some 150 years, and they developed their own society. They were forced to leave because the English considered them English subjects, and they considered themselves neutrals. And they were sort of dispersed to the four winds. The majority of them, maybe 20,000 strong, wound up in Louisiana in the late 1760s, let's say. And from that time till now, they flourished in this part of Louisiana, which is the southwest part of Louisiana, away from New Orleans, west of the Mississippi River.
And for the better part of 2 centuries, their language and remote location kept the Acadians isolated from the rest of the United States. Today's Cajuns are proud that they have preserved their heritage. Many are still resistant to the influences of American culture.
Ma mère, c'est un Français.
Il parle le français à la maison?
Oh ouais. Oh, ici, il y a tas de Français. En fait, c'est pas comme aux autres Français, ils appellent ça créole. C'est pas bien expliqué comme aux autres. Et dans le Montréal, c'est peut-être mieux. Tu vois pas des pommes, il y a de noix. Hein?
If you look in Webster's dictionary under Cajun, it says a derogatory term to describe ancestors of French descent. I don't speak French, and it was because I was forbidden to. And it was because my parents did not want me to be treated like a second-class citizen in America. And they didn't want me to speak with any kind of accent so that I wouldn't be marked.
And it's funny because at that time, it was like not economical feasible to continue to speak French, so it didn't have an economic quality like it does now. It was just since the 1980s that restaurants changed their name to Cajun restaurants and not seafood restaurants. The music has followed the people. It's a music of sadness, but it's a music of hope. It's a music that's almost religious in quality in the fact that it's retained its traditionalism, its harsh realities of love and leaving someone leaving you, of death and hardships, but of the good times. It's sort of a music that as blues would alleviate the pain of blues, Cajun music sort of brings you back to another time, to a happier time. And it survived through the people. and just through the people, in fact, orally.
If you look at a map of the Francophone world, the French-speaking world, there, southwest Louisiana has a little, you know, red dot over it, you know, and we realized that through the International Festival that we could bring all of our long-lost cousins and so forth to America to enjoy meeting their own culture. So it's like we're cross-pollinating with, you know, with the Caribbean, with Canada, with Europe, with Africa. We even had French Polynesia come one time. We're looking toward Vietnam. You know, anywhere French is spoken, we find that there is this little linkage.
Among this year's guests is Plastic Systems Band from Martinique.
Alors, monsieur, voilà Jimmy. Oui, Jimmy. Welcome. Jimmy, voilà Blaster.
And we'd like to present right now the Plastic System Band.
Any idea where they're from?
I have no idea. Jamaica? Local people?
I was on the Isle of Martinique once, and I love it.
Back home, their 75-piece orchestra of plastic instruments is accompanied by 100 dancers. Though their numbers were reduced for this visit, they've brought along a special message in their song.
In order to avoid contractedness, use a condom every time. In order to avoid contractedness, plastic every time.
C'est 10h30 dans la ville de Lafayette, là, un joli samedi, là. Vous avez écouté les programmes.
The Cajuns were not the only settlers to find refuge in this part of Louisiana. The region also became a haven for Creoles, freed slaves and pioneering immigrants arriving from the French colonies of Western Africa and the Caribbean.
Au commencement des années 1900, il y avait des gens, les gens noirs, qui parlaient que le créole, ou une langue qui peut-être s'approche au français. Mais tout de même, dans les chansons, les chansons tradition, on avait la langue créole, on avait des expressions créoles qui existaient. À mon avis, on devrait continuer quand même.
United with the Cajuns by a common language and religion, the Creoles also brought many traditions unique to their African origins. This part of southwest Louisiana is known as the birthplace of rhythm and blues. But the rhythms of Africa are at its roots, and these rhythms are being rediscovered. Today in Lafayette, the Burundi Ballet share their traditional dance with an international audience. World beat music has arisen from this cultural renaissance, and a newly discovered sense of pride has arisen here as well.
J'ai les invités dans le studio là, qui viennent pour discuter, pour causer un petit brin là, de le festival des écrivains. Ça, c'est un grand festival qui prend place vendredi soir.
Vendredi soir à 7h. Et tout quelqu'un invité. Of course, nous avons les tickets, nous savons qu'il y a les reserve seats. Et BYOB, Mentos, on bouteille ou on baby.
Oh, okay.
Bring your own bottle or your own baby.
Black folks have always tried to identify and try to find a place in society. As I try to get a lot of people to come in and talk and say something, you know, about what they're doing, because I think it's important, and let folks know about it. And when they're able to do that, we affirm who we are. We affirm that this is what we would like to do.
I could recall one of my sisters who is deceased now. When we walk in the Northgate Mall, sometimes we catch ourselves speaking Creole. And she says something like, "Shut up, girl, shut up. Those guys hear you talking Creole, they'll say you're from the country. Speak English." So it was like a thing about if the guys would hear you speak Creole, they wouldn't look at you because they felt you were a country girl.
We're going to have the crawfish jambalaya. We're going to have the crawfish au gratin. We're going to have crawfish boulette. It's a lot of things that we could do with our crawfish.
Crawfish is one of the basics of local cuisine. The still waters of the swamps and bayous that zigzag throughout the regions nurture these crustacean delicacies. These waters also nurture the isolation that has kept Acadiana intact for generations.
The fishermen, my father and his dad and his father before him, know the waters in the Chaffly Basin and the bays and all of that. And everybody has their little specific knack of doing things and their little secrets, and they won't tell anybody. Because they pass it along to their sons and to close friends, and that's it. And it's frustrating because all the older people here, I really value all the older people, and they can teach you a lot. But most of them speak French, and you can't communicate with them.
Like fishing secrets, jobs here are passed from one generation to the next. This crawfish plant is the largest employer in the town of Henderson. The demand for crawfish has risen since Cajun food has become the nation's latest restaurant trend. But there's always a price to pay for success. Here, the cost was the re-education of an entire generation.
When we were little and starting into school, the schools were frustrated because the children would go to school knowing only French. And it would take about 6 months to teach them the English language. And so they started banning it. They didn't allow us, to go to school speaking French. And now they're trying to change that around. They're trying to, make it a mandatory to have a bilingual course in school, and they're really trying. So my children know more French than I do.
T'as des enfants?
Ah ouais.
Ouais. Ils parlent français, eux, ou pas?
Ah ouais, ils parlent les deux langues, américain et français. Et puis quand ils parlent les deux, t'es deux personnes. Ouais. Si tu parles Juchane, ouais, t'es Juchane. Mais si tu parles deux, comme ça dit, if you talk both of them, you're two men.
Two men.
Yeah.
Et tu préfères être quel homme?
I believe French is better.
French is better.
Oh yeah.
That's where your heart is.
Yeah. Parce qu'il ne faut pas perdre la langue, c'est trop important.
Bonjour, mes amis. Welcome
Check,
to
check.
Let the Bon Temps Rouler, the Cajun Rendezvous.
And it's because of events like this that the language has not been lost. The Cajun Rendezvous is broadcast live from Eunice every Saturday night.
At USL in Lafayette. Very ensoleillé. So, without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Cheryl Cormier and her Cajun Sound.
Some call it the Grand Ole Opry of Cajun music, hopeful, naive groups striving for the big time. But if you listen closely, you might find that these musicians are playing for a greater goal.
On est beaucoup encouragé ici dans l'allusion qu'on va préserver la langage français et je veux donner crédit à tous les bons musiciens parce que c'est eux autres qui ont gardé la langage vivant parce que l'État de l'allusion en 1930 avait passé une loi qu'on ne pouvait plus parler français dans les écoles et tout notre jeune monde avait arrêté de parler français, mais les musiciens sauvaient la langue française ici dans l'allusion.
The Cajun used to be shameful. They used to, they always felt like, their culture and all that was shameful. And now Cajun, anywhere you go with the word Cajun, it sells. It's very popular.
So popular, in fact, that they've reconstructed an authentic 18th century Cajun village as a tourist attraction. Plastic Systems Band went there for a taste of Acadian history.
C'est quoi exactement? Hein? On peut manger déjà comme ça ou bien?
In the early 1900s, Zydeco, or rather we can say traditional music, and that's what it was called, traditional music, was played by the whites as well as the black community. I really feel that the black community did not get its fair share and the exposure. Many folks who played, they played in houses, like house dances and so forth, but they were never able to record any of the music.
Times have changed, and so has the tempo back at the Cajun Rendezvous, where the Zydeco Rockers have taken the stage.
La musique Zydeco a commencé avec les Noirs, c'est pour ça que c'est différent. Le temps, le timing, le phrasing, les mots, le son de l'accordéon, ceux-là qui usent l'accordéon diatonique comme ça, Cheryl joue, met les pick-up en dedans, ça change le son, ou bien ça joue l'accordéon piano, ou ça joue l'accordéon à 2 ou 3 rangées. C'est différent.
La musique Zydeco, c'est quelque chose qui est très vite et un mélange de sons, de jazz, de soul. Et moi, je vois, pour moi, l'expression de gospel, des nouvelles, des choses qu'on voulait dire aux gens.
Spreading the news is what another Zydeco band, Zydeco Force, is up to. They've been invited to perform at Festival International this year. a big break for a local band, so they've got a few last-minute supplies to pick up.
Guitar strings. Okay, how are you set for the festival this weekend? You have enough string picks and drumsticks and that kind of stuff?
Would stop the rain from falling down.
Cajun music is like really something that you would sit down to and listen and waltz to a lot. And Zydeco is much jumpier. I mean, it's like you could feel it. You could just sit down and you might not probably never heard Zydeco in your life, and you be standing up and you see everybody else moving. You wonder why they doing this. Before you know it, you're doing this, and you out on the floor and jumping around and stuff.
I do call it Zydeco art, you know, because I feel like it captures the spirit and flavor of the music.
Francis Pavi has also hit the big time with Zydeco, only his medium is paint. His shows in London, Paris, and New York have brought the rural ambiance of Acadiana to a wider audience.
Louisiana is a cradle-born rhythm and blues, and of course Zydeco and Cajun music are unique to this region. So I think it's just the creative spirit that lends itself to be expressed in a couple of different ways, painting and consequently musically.
Yeah, I've seen y'all play before. I'm from Lafayette.
I kind of hang out with the musicians and I play music myself, and I like to paint about that kind of thing.
Yeah. I did a little book. I had this festival in France, and they did a book on my artwork, and they also did a little thing on the Zydeco stuff, because I kind of paint about the musicians and stuff like that. I did this memorial to Mike Clifton with the accordion.
Yeah.
Of course, that's Amity.
Yeah. Yeah. My buddy, huh?
Yeah.
It's okay.
I play the accordion too.
Really?
Oh yeah. Dog Hill, and let's see what else I play. It's like different things. Johnny Macabri, I like that.
Really?
Yeah. Da, 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 da.
The name of this painting is called When the Moon Became a Nude. And see, the nude is floating up in the sky, kind of like the moon is painted yellowish, kind of like to give a soft glow to the moon. And these people are going to a honky-tonk. You see, these people are entering, and this guy's talking to them. And this woman is standing in the door, and these people are inside the bar with the music going on. And it's a brilliant starry night up here.
What's a honky-tonk?
Well, to be honest with you, from the way I understand honky-tonk is, it's like something where Elvis especially started out from the deep grapevine. There's a certain way they dance, swing, and I enjoy watching it because when my head get full, I try it myself, you know.
Back at the Acadian village, Plastic Systems keeps right on singing despite a rather show-stopping history lesson.
On n'a jamais eu des esclaves ici. Et les Noirs ont tout le temps été traités comme ils sont traités aujourd'hui. On était près de les Noirs. C'était juste, on n'allait pas à la même école, mais on se traitait comme des frères.
Décalez-moi, décalez-moi. Décalez-moi, décalez-moi. Décalez-moi, décalez-moi. Décalez-moi, décalez-moi. Décalez-moi, décalez-moi.
Ceux-là qui étaient riches et les bons pouvaient, eux, ils ont des esclaves. Les pauvres comme nous autres, les habitants n'en avaient pas, parce qu'on n'avait pas assez d'argent pour les acheter.
The Cajuns and Creoles were united as much by their common poverty and persecution as by their shared language, culture, and faith. Issues of racial inequality and separatism are still being dealt with here, as everywhere.
Looking at the situation here and trying to distinguish it from Deep South attitudes, when I saw how closely people, they're interdependent. Blacks here are landowners too, and have been for a long time. So they're, they're growing sugar cane together. They're raising cattle together, and it seemed to me like that the black and white here in Louisiana loved each other, but they didn't like each other.
This is all the pigs. Yeah.
William Hamilton owns one of the largest plots of undeveloped land in the city of Lafayette, but he's humble about that. What he'd rather point out is the role that he played in putting Zydeco music, in fact, the king of Zydeco, on the air.
Clip machinists, when they first started music, him and his brother with a frottoir and a cauldron. I'm the one who put Cliff Machinier first time on TV, on Channel 10. I used to work for Channel 10. And I'm the one who put Cliff. He was the first black man on the news. He was playing for me at the time, in my club. So I talked to him. He said, "Oh yeah," he said, "I wouldn't mind to be on the air, on TV." So he was the first black man on TV that I knew, with a cauldron. Mm-hmm. Yeah, with a cauldron, Zydeco. Yeah, Zydeco.
Paul Jones. Tout le monde va ensemble dans le champ. Toutes les filles au milieu et après ça les hommes.
Allons commencer avec toutes les femmes.
Toutes les femmes, tous les hommes. J'ai été bien et mieux connu comme un musicien qu'un avocat. Avant, j'étais juge. Plus de monde m'a connu comme Rick Michaud, avec les frères Michaud, autre que Rick Michaud, l'avocat. Hamilton's place is one of the oldest nightclubs, you could call it, I guess, in Lafayette Parish. It's a very rural setting. I mean, there's a cypress tree right there, and Guineas sleeping in the cypress trees at night while the music's going on. It's got a lot of feel to it.
C'est joli.
12 pounds of pork, and I use 2, 4, 6, 8 pounds of rice. There about 8 pounds of onions, a bunch of onion tops, a bunch of parsley. It turned out pretty good.
And what's so special about jambalaya?
Oh, the way I do it. The way I do it.
Several years ago, I asked William Hamilton if he would like, for us to play there on Friday nights, and he said sure. He's, real easy guy to get along with, and in fact, we interchange horses for breeding purposes and that sort of thing too.
Well, this is just fun. You can't make money with horses. That's spending money, okay?
Right. So that's for fun, huh?
Oh, that's for fun, yeah. That's just fun. That horses is just for fun. Yeah, horses just for fun.
What is the difference between a Cajun and a Creole?
Skin color. The French blood is in both groups, and it's a shared culture. The Acadians in Nova Scotia, when I talk about this expulsion, it was a very rough deal. They separated the male and the female. They took the men off in ships, leaving the women and children there, okay? So the men were then dropped off just at ports all along the Atlantic coast. So that's why it took 50 years, nearly, for the families to regroup down here. Creoles, same thing. They're slaves. They're coming, from West Africa, primarily, through the Caribbean, into New Orleans. So you have two groups of people who have really suffered, and they don't want to suffer anymore. So they're hiding out. You guys, y'all go do what you want to do. We just want to fish, eat, have children, go to church, play music. We found paradise.
And all of a sudden, the whole Americanization of the states, when they tried to really take hold in the 20s, when the first bridge was built over the Mississippi River, and people were forced to speak English in schools and to abandon their French. That's when the trouble started.
You up? Look, if you have any questions, call me on beeper. I'm carrying my beeper. Okay, bye. Bye-bye.
Les Américains, that's how, my parents' generation referred to anybody that wasn't a Cajun or a Creole as being an American. So I would say that it was with the discovery of oil that brought money into the region, that brought Americans and American interests and business here.
There was a lot of oil activity here, and people who obviously didn't speak French, and if you spoke with an accent, then you were ridiculed. That continued until the 60s.
In the 1960s, a progressive curriculum reintroduced French in the schools, and the stigma was removed. After the bottom fell out of the oil market, the community realized that they had another valuable resource, their unique language and culture.
At one point, Lafayette had the highest per capita retail spending in the country. So in the boom days, everybody was out busy making money. So when it all fell apart, we lost a lot of good people, professionals and so forth. But those who stayed decided, well, we have our place back, let's rebuild it, and what is it that we like to do the most? We like to eat, play music, we love our culture, we love our land, so tourism was a natural thing. It's a clean industry, and our culture, because it stayed isolated so long, is still intact.
We are listening everything, everybody, every kind of music, and probably we'll get something from Lafayette to bring back home, probably.
We're all just completely dedicated to making the most of what we love the best, which is our culture.
And of course, there's this quality of those people who are called born-again Cajuns après la richesse, you know, because they found out they can make money on this thing, and all of a sudden they became Cajuns, you know.
Whether for money or pride, Cajun power enhances not only tourism, but politics as well.
You've got to have a band at every political function, and preferably a Cajun band. I think it's so important to keep that part of our heritage, and we really enjoy the Cajun dancing.
Now, French once again is an official language in Lafayette Parish. Judge Michaud's phone is answered with a cheery bonjour.
I felt like if she answered the telephone in French, that would be a way of preserving and letting anybody that calls over here know that we do speak French and that it's okay to speak French. All right. A lot of people are nervous when they call a judge's office, so this may put them more at ease.
Louisiana has a unique culture, and part of that culture is the bilingualism, the French. And I think as our world community gets smaller, as the European common market develops, that the speaking of French is going to be a very, very valuable tool, a very valuable asset to anyone.
On est en France et on a passé dans différentes régions. Ils ont vu une version de la chanson qu'ils appelaient J'ai vu le loup, le renard et la belette. On a été aussi dans Québec. À Québec, ils ont vu aussi leurs différentes versions. Alors quand on est revenu chez nous, on a décidé de faire une version cajun. J'ai vu le loup, le renard et la belette.
A local legend, Dewey Balfa, is standing in for Rick Michaud at tonight's gig. He was born before the Americanization of Acadiana began. Now his secrets are being passed to the next generation of Cajun musicians.
Well, what I'm doing is I'm remain as traditional as the music has been, like years ago. You know, I'm playing the music Dennis played and the Beaufort brothers, and keeping it as traditional as it can possibly be today.
Keeping the traditions pure and passing them on to the young is also the mission of Sunday morning church services. In Lafayette Parish, that isn't accomplished with Baptist revivals or swinging gospel, but with traditional Catholic liturgy. And here at St. Anthony's Church, the faithful find not only God, but also a sense of cultural identity and self-esteem.
Let it shine, gonna let it shine.
The area here is very Catholic in nature and very traditionally Catholic in nature. This particular church, St. Anthony's Church, the majority of the parishioners are black. And their tradition of Catholicism goes back hundreds of years. This is a different part of the South, like no other part of the South. The tradition here is from the French and Spanish nation who came years ago and settled here. And they brought their Catholic faith with them, and this area has remained predominantly Catholic since then. These young people are, most of them, 19, 20 years old. They come to church on their own. Nobody forces them to come to church. Yeah. They come on their own, and they come because they want to come.
Well, you're helping. I'm learning again. Who is you?
With all that I think that's going on in the world, the identity and the developments that have occurred, especially in our black areas, the word self-worth would be clearer to them.
Everyone is not Cajun, and everything does not belong to Cajun people. It does not come from just that culture.
We go to a trail ride every Sunday, and I love to go to trail rides. I got a bunch of horses. We go to trail ride every Sunday.
In fact, Creole culture has spawned not only a unique cuisine and Zydeco music, but also a lesser-known phenomenon, the trail ride.
A trail ride is a lot of horses going on the road with people, wagons with hair on, with music, they barbecue and they drinks, and that's what a trail ride is.
Each town has its trail ride club. The clubs take turns hosting the event.
Voilà une bonne temps aujourd'hui.
C'est des journées de beaux chevaux, hein?
Oh, on a des beaux chevaux ici aujourd'hui.
Oh, des beaux chevaux aujourd'hui.
Yeah.
C'est bon.
C'est bien bon.
The Hamiltons go to rides as far away as Houston and Lake Charles.
You meet about 3,000 people, 200 horses on the road. Good time and dance and drink your beer on the road, on your horse.
And everybody all comes together, meet in one certain place, and you have your ride, which starts usually at 11 to 12 o'clock. And we ride 3 to 4 miles, you see, and we stop and have a rest area, let the horses rest. After 35, 40 minutes to an hour, we take off and we ride back to the area, and usually they got live music and everything going on again.
Trail Ride is a weekend-long event. It begins Friday night with cowboy stew and continues Saturday with music and dancing. Sunday, there's a wild ride through the countryside, ending up at the Sponsors Club for more Zydeco.
You're kind of performing for spirits. You're performing for people who came before you.
All over the world, somebody's looking for a definition of Zydeco. The definition, and you may not believe it, is a string bean. That's what Zydeco means, a string bean without salt.
Have you eaten string beans without salt? There was no meat. You're really down. So it's like Zydeco, string beans without salt.